Hey guys, welcome back to Steel City Sports. So today we're going to be taking a look at the week 6 of the NFL, and we're going to go over my picks, see how I did this week, and just kind of talk about, the overall storylines around these teams coming out of week 6. So I had a better week this week. I went 9-6 with my picks as opposed to last week. I think I went like 5-9. So a better week this week, but there was definitely some big upsets. We saw the Eagles lose, the Bills lost. So we're going to talk about every single game in week 6 starting now. So, of course, we had the Thursday night football game. The Eagles going to New Jersey, East Rutherford, New Jersey, to play the Giants, which I picked the Eagles. I think a lot of people out there, everyone had money on the Eagles. The Eagles were over a touchdown favorite in this game. I believe they were 7.5 favorites when the game started, and they ended up losing this one 34-17. So what's the big takeaway from this game? Well, it kind of just goes into everything I've been saying about the Eagles for years now, and that's when they have a bad offensive coordinator, they're just in a bad spot because Nick Sirianni, I get it, Nick Sirianni is a Super Bowl winning head coach. No one's going to be able to take that away from him, but I think if we're being honest, you or me could have probably coached that Eagles team last year with how stacked that roster was and how good their coordinators were last year. So I think things are going to get weird in Philly if they continue to lose games like this, especially against a team where they're just leaps and bounds better from a talent perspective, from a roster perspective, and I get it. The Eagles did have some injuries in this game. Jalen Carter didn't suit up, and Quinyon Mitchell did get hurt during this game, which is a big deal because Quinyon Mitchell is by far the Eagles' best secondary player in a struggling secondary. So you take Quinyon Mitchell away, their secondary really was punished by Jackson Dart and the Giants in this one. So for the Eagles, I just think it's going to be kind of similar to the year they had in 2023. They got off to a good start, but as the year went on, they just kind of got exposed because they had bad coordinators. Sirianni isn't good enough to overcome having bad play calling because, to put it bluntly, Sirianni doesn't really provide anything. And that's why I never was a fan of Nick Sirianni, because what does he provide to the Philadelphia Eagles as a head coach? He doesn't call defensive plays. He doesn't call offensive plays. He doesn't make personnel moves. That's Howie Roseman, the GM. So what exactly is Nick Sirianni providing to this football team? Really nothing. He's kind of a glorified cheerleader, and them losing a game like this, I think, really does reflect on the coaching staff, because from a roster perspective, you can make an argument the Eagles have the best roster on paper in the National Football League, and you could say the Giants have a bottom 5 roster on paper. So it's absolutely inexcusable to lose this game if you're Philadelphia. And just keep this in mind, people might think Nick Sirianni is on scholarship because he just won the Super Bowl, but Doug Peterson won a Super Bowl with the Eagles, and he was chased out of town like 2 or 3 years later. And if this continues to happen where it's basically a non-functioning offense without a competent play caller, Sirianni could get on the hot seat pretty quick. This is a totally inexcusable game to lose. Now, let's look at this from the Giants' perspective. These two rookies are really exciting. Jackson Dart and Cam Skattebo have completely changed the energy of the New York Football Giants right now. They're just really good players. They're really good impact players, making big plays, and they beat real teams. It's not like they beat up on bad teams. They beat the Chargers and the Eagles, 2 teams that made the playoffs last year. Obviously, the Eagles won the Super Bowl last year. So the Giants, they have the pieces to be a good team going forward. It's just we haven't really seen it. They've been a dysfunctional mess, and that's why I think this is such a bad loss for the Eagles. But the Giants, they are trending in the right way momentum-wise. They're getting on track, and if Jackson Dart continues to play like this, the Giants, maybe they'll threaten to be a wild card spot. I don't know. I don't say that very strongly because I don't see it, but Jackson Dart looks like he might work in the NFL. And if you guys remember, I wanted the Steelers to draft Jackson Dart, but that's neither here nor there. That started off the week for me on an L. One of the bigger upsets of the week, a big surprise for how bad the Eagles looked in this game. Jalen Hurts did not play well. He had Devonta Smith wide open for a touchdown and completely just botched that throw. So things are not looking great for Philly. Like I said, if they lose their next game, I don't have the schedule in front of me. I don't know who they play next week. But if they lose their next game, that's only going to add more fuel to the fire in terms of the drama we have with the Philadelphia Eagles. So moving on to the overseas game between the Broncos and the Jets. This was a absolutely awful game. This was flat out terrible. 13-11, the Broncos win. I did pick the Broncos to win this, so that's my first win of the week. But like I said, this game was just bad. Bo Nix, I think, really was kind of exposed in this game. Yeah, he played really good in the first half, but I think he only completed like 2 passes in the second half, if I'm remembering that stat right. Like, Bo Nix was just flat out atrocious down the stretch of this game, and it just goes into, I don't really think Bo Nix is that good. I know there's a lot of people out there who were, rushing to put Bo Nix into the Hall of Fame after his rookie year, but I kind of thought it was a little more of smoke and mirrors, and it's just objective. Bo Nix has just not been very good this year. So they snuck out of here with a win, but it's against arguably the worst team in the NFL that doesn't have a single win on their schedule. And as for the Jets, I mean, I don't think this is really a surprise to anybody how bad the Jets are. They're a dumpster fire. They have the longest playoff drought in professional American sports. They're a disaster, and I don't see that changing anytime soon. Aaron Glenn looks like a big mistake, and I was questioning at the time why they even hired Aaron Glenn to this job, because it didn't really make a whole lot of sense. He was a fine coordinator in Detroit, but it's not like Detroit's defense was lighting it up. Actually, Detroit's defense over the past couple of years has kind of been their weakness. So to hire that guy running that defense didn't really make a whole lot of sense, especially when you got a young quarterback like Justin Fields. Like, I would rather him be with an offensive-minded guy. And the defense has actually gotten worse since Aaron Glenn has taken over the Jets. And the Lions' defense has gotten better. So Aaron Glenn's supposed to be this defensive guy. You don't really see a positive impact on the Jets in terms of the defense. They're the only winless team in football right now. They look absolutely rudderless. And we're going to talk about in a little bit here, the Titans fired their head coach, Brian Callahan. I don't know how Aaron Glenn is going to keep this job past this year with how disastrous they've been. Like, I get it. He went to the Jets. It's a really bad organization. I'm not expecting you to go to the Jets and rattle off 12 wins and be a playoff team. But you have to show signs of having an impact. Like, you have to show that what you're doing is at least having some sort of an impact on the team. Well, like we said, Aaron Glenn's supposed to be this defensive guy. Their defense has gotten drastically worse. And it wasn't even good last year, but it's gotten worse this year under Aaron Glenn. So that's a mess. And with Brian Callahan being fired this early into the season, I could see Aaron Glenn potentially being fired before this season is over with how pathetically bad the Jets' defense is, because it's not really the offense. Like, the offense, they struggle in this game for sure, but it's against arguably the best defense in football. Like, Justin Fields is not the problem here. It's their defense. So let's move on to the next game, which was my Steelers. We hosted the Cleveland Browns. Obviously, I picked my Steelers to win that one, and they did. They won that game 23-9. There were some really, really bad calls in this game. I don't know how many people watched this game, but there was a fucking horrible call on Jabril Peppers. I don't really understand. If you guys know, if you watched the game, there was the kickoff, and Jabril Peppers, blocked a guy, but he had his back to the guy, and they called that, an illegal block. Like, it was literally one of the worst play calls I've ever seen. I thought this game was horribly officiated. Even though the Steelers did win, it felt like the refs were trying to keep this close. And you know me, if you're a longtime listener, I'm not really a blame the refs kind of guy. I feel like through the course of the game, both sides are going to get calls that are kind of iffy. But the refs were really bad in this one. But despite that, the Steelers did win. Dillon Gabriel I don't know if he's an NFL-level player. He looked really bad in this game. Jalen Ramsey, got to give him a ton of credit, having 2 sacks in this game. Jalen Ramsey has been an absolute difference maker this year for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think Jalen Ramsey has really returned to form. After last year, people thought he was on the decline in Miami. I have to point out Jalen Ramsey. He has clearly been one of the best players on this football team. Jalen Ramsey has been an absolute superstar. He's played even better, I think, than TJ Watt this year. I think Jalen Ramsey has been the best and most impactful defensive player for the Steelers this year, and that was showcased in this game, having 2 sacks. And the offense continues to be kind of up and down. But I have to give Aaron Rodgers a lot of credit because he gets the ball out fast. And that's something that he kind of has to do with the Steelers team because the O-line is not giving Aaron Rodgers any time to throw the ball, which does worry me. But, you got to keep in mind the Browns, even though they're a joke franchise, they do have a really good pass rush led by Myles Garrett. But I thought Aaron Rodgers did a really good job of not holding on to the ball very long. He was getting the ball out really quick, had a touchdown to DK Metcalf. The Steelers, they just continue to be a consistently good team, not great team. And they should cruise to winning this division with how the other teams in the division look right now. The Steelers are the clear favorite to win the AFC North. So moving on, we have the Cardinals at Colts. Like I said last week, I sold all my stock on the Cardinals. If you're a longtime listener of Steel City Sports, you know that I've been a lot higher on the Cardinals than most people the last 2 years. I'm a big Kyler fan, but after that loss to the Tennessee Titans, and it was probably the worst loss I've ever seen. I've been watching football for a decade now, and I can't remember a worse loss than what the Cardinals did against the Titans. To be up, 23-6, like in the fourth quarter, and ending up blowing it with just so many boneheaded decisions. It was literally like a Looney Tunes episode with how the Cardinals pissed away that game against the Titans. So my confidence for this team have completely left after watching that. And I'll be surprised if I pick the Cardinals to win, as I do my picks. Like, obviously, if they're playing like the Saints or the Jets, like I'll probably pick them. But in any close matchup, I don't see me going with the Cardinals. I've completely lost faith in that organization as a whole, just with how sloppy they played in that game. And overall, their inconsistency. Like, they're just not a team I can trust reliably. And that all kind of stems from Kyler Murray, who's probably the most inconsistent quarterback in the NFL. But the Colts, they're just good. The Indianapolis Colts are just a good football team. I think they're going to cruise to winning the AFC South. You guys know I'm not really a big believer in Jacksonville this year. Houston's been kind of disappointing. Obviously, Tennessee's a dumpster fire right now, just fired their head coach. So I think the Colts, they're sitting at 5-1 now. Daniel Jones, I think, is a legit MVP candidate. Jonathan Taylor's making a case to be the best running back in the NFL. The Colts are rolling right now. They look like an incredible team. So no surprise that they win that one. Like I said, I did have the Colts in that game. Next up, we had the Rams at Ravens. I did pick the Rams. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this one because we all knew that Lamar wasn't playing this game, and I told you guys when Lamar got hurt, the Ravens are not going to win a single game with Lamar Jackson out because of how bad their defense is. I did a whole breakdown on it. If you want to hear my thoughts about the Ravens season as a whole, obviously the video is like 2 weeks old now, but click on the channel, go to videos, and you can see the video that says, what the fuck is happening to the Baltimore Ravens, where I break down all the issues with this team. I haven't checked it since then, but when I made that video, the Ravens had the 31st worst pass defense and the 31st worst rush defense. On top of that, all their injuries, on top of that, Lamar Jackson being out, it's really no surprise. It's like I said, any game Lamar Jackson is going to be out for the Ravens, I'm going to pick against them because they need Lamar Jackson healthy and playing at an MVP level just to have a chance to win any game. So if you take him out of the equation, the Ravens have zero chance of winning any football games without Lamar. So no surprise the Rams win this one. Not a surprise whatsoever. Moving on, Seahawks went to Jacksonville to play the Jags. I picked Seattle. Like I told you guys, I'm not a big believer in Jacksonville. I do think that them being at a record of 4-1 and beating the Chiefs was a bit of fool's gold. Their defense has played really well, particularly their pass rush has been very productive, but I don't believe in Jacksonville. I don't know what it is. I feel like I've been burnt too many times by the Jags. Like, I've been higher on the Jags the past couple of years than most people. Like, if you remember back in 2023, I picked Trevor Lawrence to win MVP. I was really, really high on the Jags not that long ago. And that didn't even look like a bad prediction because they were like 8-3 in the 1 seed, and then he got hurt and they lost out, or they only won like one more game that year. So I feel like I have been a Jags and Trevor Lawrence defender, but this year, them getting off to a hot start, I don't think it's really sustainable because their offense feels like a lot of smoke and mirrors. Like, their two top receivers aren't even really contributing to the offense, which is so bizarre. Brian Thomas Jr. has been an absolute dud this year. Travis Hunter hasn't really done anything. I think Travis Hunter needs to be moved to full-time defense, because the few times I've watched the Jags this year, the only times I really see Travis Hunter doing anything is whenever he's on defense. So I would just commit Travis Hunter 100% to playing corner. That's what he came out of high school. He came out of high school as a 5-star corner. He obviously played really good his last year when he won the Heisman. He played really good at receiver, but I think he's a more natural corner, and that's the side of the ball he should be on. I don't know what it is. I can't put it into a perfect sentence. I don't know what it is. I don't trust the Jags, and that was kind of shown here, where they only put up 12 points against the Seahawks at home. And Seattle just continues to be a really good team. Seattle, I do think Seattle has just as good a chance of winning the NFC West as those other two teams. Obviously, you take Arizona out, but the other three teams in that division, they all kind of have a shot right now. And I think the Niners, I don't believe in them long-term with just how many injuries they have. So I think this division will come down to Seattle and LA. So keep your eye out on the Seahawks. They're a really scrappy team. They're a lot better this year than what I thought they'd be. I thought Sam Darnold was going to kind of drop off without Kevin O'Connell, but Sam Darnold's been pretty fucking good this year. And you could maybe even argue that he should be in the MVP conversation. So let's move on now to Chargers at Dolphins. For some reason, I picked the Dolphins to win this game. And that really stemmed from the Chargers' offensive line issues and their running back issues. Their O-line has been decimated with injuries. Their two top running backs, Omarion Hampton and Najee Harris, are both out. They were both out for this game. So much of Jim Harbaugh and his identity of running a football operation stems from O-line and run games. So you take away those two things that Harbaugh so strictly stresses. I was like, well, the Dolphins at home, they're at least a capable team. They're not a great team, but it's still warm weather. They're in Miami. They can still put up points. I was like, I talked myself into taking the Dolphins, and they still ended up finding a way to lose this game. And you got to give Jim Harbaugh credit for that. The fact that his team is so decimated with injuries and still being able to find a way to win, give him and Herbert a lot of credit for that. Similar thing to what Shanahan's been doing, with all his injuries. I think Shanahan's doing an even more impressive job because his quarterback's out. But that's a different conversation for a different time. I took the L on that one, taking the Dolphins. I mean, you should just know when you take the Dolphins, you're going to hold the L. Moving on, though, Cowboys at Panthers. I picked the Cowboys in this one. They lost. Excuse me. The Carolina Panthers beat the Cowboys. The Panthers, maybe they're just better than I gave them credit for. I could be wrong about this, but I think the Panthers are 3-3 right now. So they're 500. I mean, I can't really give them too much credit because the Cowboys' defense is statistically the worst defense in the NFL right now. But I just kind of thought, if this game was going to go the way of a shootout, that it would favor Dallas because they have the better offense, they have the better quarterback. But the Panthers, they found a way to win. Give them credit. Give Bryce Young credit. Give Dave Canales credit. I think Dave Canales is actually becoming a pretty underrated head coach just for what he's done with that Panthers offense. As for Dallas, I mean, they're getting CeeDee Lamb back more than likely. This next week, they're going to be playing Washington in a pretty huge game. But despite this loss, I still think Dak Prescott has been really impressive this year. He's really played above the level that I thought he would, especially with CeeDee Lamb being out. George Pickens has really emerged as a number one receiver. So I think Dallas is going to be fine because they don't have that tough of a schedule, and they're getting CeeDee Lamb back. They can put up a bunch of points, but anytime your defense is this bad, you can lose any given game. So Dallas is probably going to finish as an 8 or 9 win team. Carolina, I just don't know. They're so up in the air because you never know what you're getting out of Bryce Young, but in this game, he played pretty well, and they won. Moving on, Patriots at Saints. Obviously, I picked New England. Not going to spend a whole lot of time on this. Any game where the Saints are in it. And I get it. The Saints are actually better than they get credit for. Like, their offense is actually kind of capable. Their defense is really bad. It's just not a very good roster. But I give Kellen Moore credit for keeping this team being kind of scrappy, and he's actually made Spencer Rattler look like an NFL level player, which I thought would have been basically impossible after seeing how he played last year. Was just absolute dog shit. But in a Kellen Moore ran system, like, he actually looks like a capable quarterback, and obviously the Eagles really miss Kellen Moore right now. So I give Kellen Moore credit, the Saints head coach, but their roster is just so bad that they're not going to win against the Patriots, who right now are sitting at number 1 in their division over the Buffalo Bills. Like, it still blows my mind, the fact that Mike Vrabel got fired and no one hired him, like, instantly. Like, to me, if I had a coaching vacancy that year, Mike Vrabel would have been, like, the top guy I'd wanted to be on my team, to be my head coach. Like, Mike Vrabel is a stud. You look at what he did with Tennessee with Ryan Tannehill, who looked like a total bust in Miami. He kind of made him like a functional QB with the Titans. You know, in a conference with Lamar and Burrow and Mahomes and Allen and Herbert, he took Ryan Tannehill and was the 1 seed. Like, this guy just kind of knows what he's doing. You give him a capable player in Drake May at quarterback, who I think is a much better player than Ryan Tannehill. I think he has far more upside than Ryan Tannehill. The Patriots are going to be just a good team for a while. Like, it looks like they found their guy. They went through a rough couple of years there at the end with Bill, but they got their head coach. They got their quarterback. I think the Patriots are going to be a pretty damn good team for the next decade, given Drake May's health. So the Patriots, I think they've arrived as a legit team. You can't just overlook them now. They're a real playoff-level team right now. With the quarterback playing at that level and with Mike Vrabel at the helm, it's just a good operation. Moving on, we have Titans at Raiders. I picked the Raiders here just because I like I said, it's kind of ironic because I said in my predictions video I trust Pete Carroll more than I trust Brian Callahan, and Brian Callahan got fired after this game. I don't really have a lot to say about Brian Callahan because there's really not a lot to say. I thought he had some promise when he got hired, but clearly something's just not working. I mean, he was given 2 guys that were drafted kind of high. I mean, Will Levis was a second-round pick, but we've seen second-round quarterbacks go on to become really good players. Like, Jalen Hurts was a second-round pick. So he was given Will Levis. It was a fucking train wreck with Will Levis. Then he's given the number 1 overall pick in Cam Ward. And again, similar to what we said with Aaron Glenn, like, when you're on a bad team, we're not expecting you to go 12-5 and win a playoff game. We just want to see improvement. We just want to see that you're having an impact on your team. And it was clear Brian Callahan was not positively impacting the offense. The offense was actually, like, dreadfully bad under Brian Callahan. I don't think it's going to get much better just because of the personnel, but there is really nothing of note to point to with Brian Callahan as the head coach. There's really no positive thing you can say, oh, look, that's because of Brian Callahan. Like, with the elite coaches, you can see their direct impact on the game. Brian Callahan was not that whatsoever. So, maybe he's just one of those guys that is a coordinator. We've seen tons of guys in the league who they thrive as a coordinator. They get all this money thrown at them to be a head coach, and it blows up because they're not ready to be number 1. And that's fine. You can still make a shit ton of money as a coordinator in this league. Brian Callahan's going to be fine. I'm sure he's going to get another OC job down the pike. But right now, the Titans are a fucking train wreck, and they made that clear with firing their head coach. It was time to get rid of Callahan because he just really had no positive impact on this team whatsoever. The Titans are I cannot believe how bad the Titans are, because I thought they'd be like, obviously I didn't pick them as a playoff team, but I thought they'd be a scrappy, like, 8-win team. They're fucking awful. They're just flat out terrible. Their O-line is way worse than I thought it was. Calvin Ridley looks like he is fucking washed up. As a Calvin Ridley fantasy owner, I'll tell you firsthand, Calvin Ridley has been fucking horrible this year from a statistical standpoint. Maybe some of the blame of that goes on Cam Ward, but I just don't know. The Titans, they're a train wreck right now. And that's reflected in the fact that they just fired their head coach after 6 games. Let's move on. 49ers at Bucks. Not really surprised. I picked the Bucks here. They win yet again. For me right now, Baker Mayfield is the clear MVP favorite. I don't even really think there's a close number two. For me, there's not a strong competitor to MVP. Baker Mayfield is the favorite for MVP for me right now. There's no one even close. Baker Mayfield, despite all these fucking injuries going on with Tampa Bay, like Mike Evans out, Godwin's back, but he's still kind of rusty. Bucky Irving's out. In this game, Emeka Egbuka gets hurt. It doesn't fucking matter. Baker Mayfield could play with you or me at receiver. Just look at what he did with that Rams, when the Rams signed him to play on that Thursday night game out of nowhere. He was playing with, Ben Skoranek and Tutu Atwell as his receivers. Didn't even know the fucking playbook and just leads a game-winning drive. That really shows you who Baker is, and that shows you what he is with this current team. With all the injuries they've had with this roster, it doesn't really matter because Baker Mayfield is that guy. Baker Mayfield is a fucking stud right now. And if the season ended today, he is the unanimous most valuable player. 49ers, I mean, when you have that many injuries, it's hard to overcome. Even when you have a great coach like Shanahan, they are just so depleted, destroyed with injuries right now. I mean, Kittle's out, Fred Warner's out for the year, Bosa's out for the year, their quarterback's out, who they just gave $50+ million a year. It's a mess. Brandon Ayuk, who even knows if he's going to play again? Jawan Jennings was a total no-show in this game. It's a mess. Then that's a different video for a different day because there's just a lot to talk about with the Niners. Let's move on, though. Packers at Bengals. Obviously picked the Packers here. Josh Jacobs had a monster game. I am kind of surprised at how... I mean, it wasn't a close game. It was 27-18, but I thought the Packers were going to win by 30. So the Bengals were able to kind of keep it close. Joe Flacco, I mean, I don't really blame Joe Flacco for what he did in this game. I mean, he just said, I'm just going to throw the ball to Jamar Chase. That's not a bad thing to do. I mean, so Joe Flacco was fine in this game. He had a clear idea of how he wanted to play this game, and that was force feed the ball to Jamar Chase. Not a bad strategy whatsoever. Jamar Chase had a great game. But like I said, similar to what I said about the Ravens with Lamar, I think kind of holds true for the Bengals without Burrow. They're not going to win a single game without Joe Burrow. They're just too limited of a team. Defense sucks. O-line sucks. The coach probably isn't that good. He's probably going to be fired after this year. So, yeah, not a surprise Green Bay won that. I just thought they'd do it in a little bit more of dominant fashion. Next up, Lions at Chiefs. So, if you're a longtime listener of this channel, over the last 2 years, I've done these fucking pick'ems every week. And every time I preach, I'm not going to pick against Mahomes and Andy Reid in a football game. That doesn't mean they're going to win every game. I just don't feel comfortable picking against them. That has been my strong philosophy for years now on this channel. I've said, I just don't see me picking against the Chiefs. What did I do this week? For the first time in a million years, I pick against the Chiefs in a game, and they shove it right in my fucking face. And I cannot believe I picked against the Chiefs in this game. The Lions, they should have won this game. To me, they're a more complete team right now. I think they're just a better overall roster than the Kansas City Chiefs. You just can't pick against the Chiefs. Looking back on it in hindsight, I'm so pissed at myself that I went away from one of my core beliefs is don't pick against Andy Reid and Mahomes in a football game. And I fucking went against it, and it bites me in the ass. So I'm going to just double down on my philosophy. I will never pick against the Chiefs in a football game again. And I've said this before. I'm going to continue to say it. I know it's the boring pick. I still have the Chiefs going to the Super Bowl this year, especially with the Ravens kind of imploding, the Bills losing another big game. I don't know how you could pick any other team in the AFC right now. To me, the Chiefs are the favorite, and I was a fucking idiot to pick against them, especially in Arrowhead. So I'll eat some crow for that one. I'm not picking against the Chiefs again this year. And as a matter of fact, I think they could win the Super Bowl this year. They're getting Rashee Rice back next week. Yeah, it's the Chiefs. I know better. Moving on to the Monday night, we had obviously the doubleheader last night. We had Bills, Falcons. the Bills lose this one. What's going on with the Bills right now? I mean, there's a weird game. I get losing to the Patriots. It's a divisional matchup. Those are always close. But to lose to Atlanta is kind of a weird one. Very bizarre loss here. Really, when I was watching this game, the biggest thing that stood out to me was the lack of playmakers on the Bills. Like they need a number one receiver. I think it's absolutely criminal what the Bills have asked Allen to play with these past years since they got rid of Diggs. Their receiving core, I think you can argue, is the worst in the National Football League. To give Josh Allen that high caliber of a player, to give him that collection of receivers is fucking embarrassing. They have such a sorry cast of receivers. You need to go out there and get a playmaker that Josh Allen can reliably depend on, because they clearly do not have that right now. And if James Cook has an off night like he did last night, the Bills' offense is going to look stagnant. So that's kind of my takeaway for the Bills. They need to go get a playmaker. Just go get one. They tried it. I give them credit. They tried to last year with Amari Cooper, and he didn't work out. And now he's out of the league. But at the deadline, they need to go after somebody. Like if the Eagles thing continues to get weird, go get A.J. Brown or something like that. Like that, they need that level of a playmaker. And this goes back to a video I made before the season started. I said Josh Allen is not going to win a Super Bowl in Buffalo because of what the organization has put around him. The organization has not embraced Josh Allen like these other top-tier organizations have embraced their quarterbacks. I'm talking about the Eagles. What did they give Jalen Hurts? Well, I don't fucking know. The best offensive line in football, the best, one of the best defenses in football, 2 top-tier receivers, the best running back in football. You look at the Chiefs with Mahomes. What do they give him? I don't know, one of the best offensive minds to ever touch the sport, a top-tier O-line, top-tier defense, one of the best tight ends ever. What have the Bills given Josh Allen? They gave him Diggs. That's kind of it. And now Diggs is gone. He's been gone for 2 years now. And he's kind of just like, hey, Josh, go out. We've talked about this how many times? Like, I'm getting sick of talking about this with the Bills. Is how many times is it, hey, Josh, throw on your Superman cape, go out there and just get the win for us. It's not fucking sustainable, and that's why I told you guys before the year started, Josh Allen's not going to win a Super Bowl with the Bills unless they drastically change the philosophy of this football team. Let's look at the Falcons, though, because they deserve their credit for this one. Michael Penix played a good game. And the Falcons, I think, are starting to realize that it's not that difficult. Like, you have great players, use your fucking great players. And that's why I was so hard on Arthur Smith when he was the head coach with Atlanta. Is he was like making it so complicated with like, hey, we're going to try to trick teams. We're going to use Algier and Bijan. I'm going to give Tyler Algier more touches than Bijan. I'm going to not use Kyle Pitts. We're not going to throw to Drake London. We're going to throw to Darnell Mooney more. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? You have these elite stud guys. Like Bijan Robinson's one of the best running back prospects we have ever seen. Drake London is a fucking freak athlete. And it feels like this year they finally realized, let's fucking unleash these guys. These guys that we spent this high-end draft capital on. I don't know. Let's just fucking use them. Maybe that'll work. And you see last night, Drake London and Bijan Robinson were fucking insane. It's not difficult. When you have the players, use them. And that's what they did last night. So, Atlanta, just continue to use your playmakers. You got some fucking great players on that football team. Like, this should be a playoff team, given the guys you have. And particularly their defense has come around, too. Like, their pass rush is better this year. So, Atlanta, they've been frustrating because they have the talent. They just haven't utilized them. But now, might be turning around. We'll have to see, but give them big credit. A big win against the Bills in prime time. And that leads us to the last game. Bears went to Washington to play the Commanders. The Bears pull this one out on a last-minute field goal from Jake Moody, who was cut from the Niners just, like a month or so ago by the Niners, and drills it. And I gotta tell you guys, I thought for sure Jake Moody was going to miss this just because I've seen him miss so many big kicks for the Niners. But, it's a cool moment for Jake Moody to be able to, get that kick after being so disappointing with the Niners. As for this game, I mean, I don't know how the Commanders blew this one. The Commanders absolutely should have won this game. And it really came down to just Something that's kind of out of your control, and that was the weather. You can blame Jaden Daniels for that. You can blame Ja'Cory Krosky-Moret for that, but basically what happened, it started raining pretty hard. The Commanders, they're just trying to drive the ball down the field and drain the clock out. Jaden goes to hand JCM the ball, and I guess it slipped out because of the rain. It's a fumble. Bears recover it, drive down, and kick the game-winning field goal. Like, that's kind of a backbreaker, but the Bears, they get their revenge from last year from the Hail Mary. So, good for the Bears. They now have a winning record. But that has been it for my Week 6 reaction to the NFL. Definitely let me know your thoughts down in the comments, what you thought about these games. Did you hit any big bets this week? And stay tuned for our video coming out where I'll be predicting every game in Week 7. If you made it this far, thanks for listening. Please like and subscribe.